I was scrolling through TikTok and I seen a video of a young white male speaking about how the Labour Party is discriminating against white men. And as I'm watching the video, I have to be honest, my first instinct is just complaining. These people just complaining about whatever the case is. But then I realized, it hit me like, no, wait, they actually don't like straight white men. like there is actually an agenda against straight white men. It's actually the white women who just come on the internet complaining for no reason. But society don't really mess with white men no more. Let's get into the video in question.
The Labour Party hit an all-time low today by changing the criteria for imprisonment. Today they announced that if you are a woman, if you are pregnant, or if you are black, or from an ethnic background, or from a different faith group, in other words, anybody other than Christian or white, you will face lesser charges related to the same crimes. So, for example, if I committed a crime, I will be imprisoned, say for 2 years for something not major. Well, according to Labour's new criteria, if you are black, Muslim, or generally just from a different country, or a woman, or a pregnant woman, you could face 1 year for the same crime that I, as a white male, am getting 2 years for. That is their definition of equality. They believe that people from ethnic backgrounds should have lesser sentences. Why is that? We don't have to look far as to realise why. This is Shabana Mahmood, the current Justice Secretary, who has put together this piece of shit legislation that simply is racist and sexist and simply discriminates against white men. This is disgraceful, but Labour think it's fine. By doing this, Labour are appeasing to their voters, many of whom are not white males, because we know what Labour are like. We know they don't like people like us. We know that they want to pamper to the so-called minority groups. It's no longer a wonder as to why Labour failed to prosecute Pakistani grooming gangs. But I guarantee if that same group of people were a group of white males who were targeting children, Labour would have been on them like a ton of bricks. But because they weren't, because they were from a different background, they let them get away with it. And that's justice under Labour for you. It's fucking awful.
If you guys are watching from America, Labour, the UK politics are weird, okay? I grew up back home. We had American politics and Grenadian politics, okay? Liberals, Democrats, NMP, NDC. In the UK, you got Liberal, Labour, Conservative. You got like 6, okay? But Labour and Liberals are the left, okay? So this is the left's doing. And here's the thing. You guys know me from my main channel. I'm not one of these Negroes that are like, oh my God, white people, it's so hard to be white. Oh my God, white people have it so difficult. I'm not one of those, okay? But fair is fair. And this is some bullshit. This is actually some bullshit. And this wouldn't fly with any other demographic. They could not do something like this with any other demographic. Now, there may be some people who say these white men are paying for the crimes of their ancestors. That logic doesn't fly with me, because my ancestors were sold into slavery by Africans. What, am I supposed to hold a grudge against Africans, my African ancestors, because they sold my people into slavery? That wouldn't make any sense, right? Are the African people supposed to suffer because their ancestors sold my ancestors into? That doesn't make sense. So we have to be fair and objective, right?
These new sentencing guidelines issued by the Sentencing Council that we uncovered show that you're less likely to have a custodial sentence, because one of these pre-sentencing reports would be commissioned for you, if you're a woman, if you are trans, if you're neurodiverse, if you're an ethnic minority, if you're from a minority faith group, which presumably means anyone who isn't Christian. This is anti-Christian bias, and it's a bias against straight white men. It's completely outrageous and ludicrous, and it needs to stop. And frankly, the Justice Secretary should have known about this before, if indeed she didn't. She has a personal representative on the very sentencing council that issued these guidance. I've read the minutes. There was no objection raised whatsoever. The government have got to intervene and stop this, because I don't want a two-tier justice system. There was a time for months and months where people like myself, people like your viewers, frankly, were being told when they said that there was a two-tier justice system that they were wrong. The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, said they were conspiracy theorists. Well, here it is in black and white, the law of the land, the Sentencing Council have said it themselves. There is two-tier justice in this country, two-tier justice under two-tier care.
We've spoken about this in dating. The feminists have demonized masculinity to the point where men are running to the other side. Young men especially are running to the other side. Men are running towards red pill. Andrew Tate comes up and young men just flock to him. This is what is happening here. You are creating all these weird laws. You're doing all this BS. You are pushing white men into conservatism. And if white men go into conservatism, you know what's going to happen? What's happened throughout the entirety of their history. The white women are going to follow. Because that's what they do. They follow their men. You're setting yourself up to lose by putting in these laws. And stuff like this, on any level, it just doesn't make sense. I want to look at it from a black person's perspective, right? You look at the prisons and black people are disproportionately in prison, right? You might look at sentencing and say black people get sentenced for longer than white people, for example. But why is that? Surely, in order to understand why that's happening, you have to go to the source, right? Why is it that there are so many black men in prison? It's because so many black men come from broken homes. So many black men grew up fatherless. If you fix that issue, this would be irrelevant. Because by the time a black man gets to the point where you're having to reduce sentences, he's already cooked. He's already failed. But if you fix it at the source, he will never get to this point. But this is where the problem comes in. The left are almost anti-family. They promote dumb shit like single motherhood. They don't believe in the value of a man. So they will never promote families for black people. They will never promote family planning, nuclear families. They will never do it. So they'll always come up with nonsense like this. And let's just stick to the courtroom. Why is it that you might go and look at some data and you might see black people, for example, because I'm speaking from a black perspective, are getting longer sentences than white people? Is it just a race thing? It's classism. It's classism. On average, black people are poorer than white people. So guess what? The white people can hire better lawyers. And guess what? If you have a good lawyer, you can get away with some shit. We see it all the time. Rich rappers getting away with all types of shit. You know why? Because they have the best lawyers. You know why? Because they have the most money. Now, in America, you can make the case that, classism, racism, same thing. I understand that. But just for this conversation, let's not do that. Why are black people poorer than white people? Or why are black people among the poorest? Whether you're talking about the UK or America, it's because they come from poverty. So they grow up poor. Their median household income is the lowest, right? So they grow up poor. And people who are born in poverty often die in poverty. But why are they poor? Because a lot of them were raised by single mothers. If you fix the family unit, all of this ceases to exist. But you guys are doing things that don't make sense. You guys are doing things, it's like you have cancer, right? And a symptom of the cancer is a headache. And you're taking paracetamol. Brother, you need to go to the doctor. You need to get the cancer removed.
Turning to the new sentencing guidelines that's been published alongside this statement, which will make a custodial sentence less likely for, and I quote, ethnic minorities, cultural minorities, and faith minority communities. Why is the Justice Secretary enshrining this double standard, this two-tier approach to sentencing? This is an inversion of the rule of law. We on this side of the House believe in equality under the law. Why doesn't she?
This to me is all nonsense. It's discrimination. I don't want these niggas getting out early. I don't want these niggas getting out early. You know what I'm saying? Some of these guys got to go. You're here reducing. These are criminals. We don't need reduced sentences. We need to get the right sentences. Okay? Go fix it at the root cause. This is dumb and it doesn't benefit anyone.